the chair of this meeting, I need to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. School committee members, when I can name, please respond in the affirmative. Elizabeth Alboda,
Yes.
Mary Bradley,
Yes.
Yes.
Mara Hogan. Yeah. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Colleen Andrade,
Yes.
Robert Haas,
Yes.
Denise Hatch. Yes. Wayne White,
Yes, here.
Charles.
No.
Charles not here, Jeff Monte.
Here.
No, and not Richard. Oh,
I apologize.
who was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff, baby, sorry, and Engineer Davis. Oh, and Engineer Rigo and Rob.
Here.
And I think it's not Mike.
I'm here.
I said that, this was first. This open meeting of the Mayor School Committee is being conducted as a hybrid, as allowed by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 3 signed into law by February 29, 2023. The Act continues to exempt certain provisions under the meeting law regarding remote meetings and public access until March 31st, 2025. This committee is convened via Zoom and in person as posted on the district's website. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Accordingly, be aware that other folks may receive you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that can broadcast will be captured by the recording, which is audible and viewable by the public. If you're planning to record this meeting or broadcast it, please use your radio hand function now to notify the chair to required by law. No hands. Meeting materials, along with the agenda, most of tonight's meeting materials are available through the public school website. 2023 agendas under the tab School Committee. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda and document the chair knows otherwise. Public comment agenda is item is a devoted time for the school committee to hear from the public. As such, a structure primarily supports a unidirectional recording of public comments rather than a bi-directional conversation. Here are the general rules for any form of public hearing. Any person wishing to speak and make a comment during a virtual meeting may do so by sending up in advance up into the public comment agenda item at the link provided.
It's in the chat.
Thank you. Please have your Zoom name matched so we'll be able to speak. All public comments are limited to 3 minutes to ensure that everyone who wishes to comment has the opportunity to be heard. No person may comment more than once without permission of the chair. As time allows, the chair could consider allowing the person a second time, especially if it's related to a topic not yet been brought up. Email comments in advance up to the public comment agenda item to comments for SC meeting at maynard.k12.ma.us and state in the subject line public comments and include your first and last name and town to ensure your comment read. Comments read by the chair will only be read for 3 minutes. If the submitted comments are longer, they will be cut off at the 3-minute mark. To ensure comments are able to be read in their entirety, it is suggested that you keep up to approximately 350 words. However, submitted comments longer than 350 words will be included in the public record in their entirety. No anyone can submit comments to the public record after comments agenda item is passed by providing email to comments for sc@maynard.k12.ma.us up until the end of the meeting, specifically stating their desire to have these additional comments included. Round the rules. We will introduce each speaker onto the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will ask each member if they have comments, questions, or motions they would like to make. I will go through the members for additional comments or questions if time allows. Please all while speaking and turn this call. And remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. If the members wish to engage with other members, please do so through the chair and take care not to interrupt anyone who is speaking. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted via roll vote. Before we move to the first item of the agenda, I'm going to open to order. Mary Griffiths,
Yes.
Sarah Bradley,
Yes.
Elizabeth Alboda,
Yes.
Mara Hogan, yeah, Tasha Rivera, yes. Okay. Public comments.
We have none at this time.
Okay. All right, moving on, urgent business.
No urgent business and yes.
Moving on. Student representative,
I don't believe it's the finals that I was able to make it.
okay. that's fine. If we could,
And this, we will not have one over the summer.
yeah, but I know that, I just want to make sure, was it Zoe, or no, who was?
The new one.
Yeah, not Caitlin, it's you. Yeah, Donna Hughes, our new rep. I'm just wondering at what point maybe reach out to her. Find out what her availability is. It sounds like she won't be able to join at all of this.
No, that's according to Mrs. York.
Oh, okay. Okay. Superintendent report.
Yeah, great, glad to be here. I think can pull that up. The first slide is really just more of a list as a reminder of what was submitted for the superintendent evaluation. So obviously you guys are looking that over and analyzing that early. So that's that. But it was, I hope that it and that would help you to be able to match that with the rubric in and of itself will be a little. The second or third. It's just a challenging document with lots of indicators, right? So that's just a high level of what was included in the report. Then we have next slide.
Sorry.
Then the next slide.
No, I think there was one before it.
There we go. So just as a reminder, both the varsity softball and varsity baseball team both went postseason this year. They won their first round, and unfortunately they lost in the second round, but they really had just phenomenal seasons, and the team they played close here were super successful. Then they actually had to travel both teams pretty far. One went all the way to North Adams Southwest and went, I believe, into Bourne. So long distances and really great seasons. They should themselves that approaches. Literacy update you're going to hear tonight from Steve Helen. So part of expansion, so who will all the way to wet, but they're here and they've been working on that. So they share collaborative. Just one of you will. I was able to include the Aspen Valley Collaborative update for you in the folder. Just updates on year ends that we meeting. Over the summer, they have a couple of outstanding issues that will probably require meeting over the summer. Aspect. There's a construction project that's happening there, relatively small, but not relatively smoothly. So there's some just issues with that, and we as a board to show. Then we have. The Green Meadow, so this is exciting. I don't know if I should just let Brantley say this because she was at the building committee meeting, but we've gone back and forth and we've got public forums and a survey. And we took the action to vote on the HVAC system for the design at the geothermal system. That's what we submitted to the MSBA. With the MSBA only next week, they'll vote to approve the plan that is next phase. For us, that means over the summer, we started really discussing. So what does that outreach look like in a little bit in July and about August and September in preparation for the special town meeting in October and then the election in November. So those 2 days, 2 months. We're asking for help from everybody. And then we have if you happen to see the awards ceremony, it was fabulous. It was last Wednesday, but I know some of you were actually there in the audience and get there early to get top rows. Wall, very smart. Other people were not so smart and suffered a little bit, but it was a fabulous ceremony, really well done, super exciting. One of the sort of just amazing moment, if you will, from that was one of the awards, obviously, who has a child with significant needs at Green Meadow, who uses a device. Did I tell you this already? I did. Maybe I told you. Yeah. And the young man loves basketball. They gave a few awards. Last award, he was able to hit the button and his device speak who was going to receive the award, and he did it in front of the whole auditorium, the gymnasium. A lot of people. more, hit the button, and the young man who received the award came up, gave him a big hug and looked him up, and it was kind of a meter. Very hard. In addition to all the other just spectacular awards that kids got for everything from, we're very traditional, but certainly grade point, and you're going into engineering, you have a lot of those to support those kids. We also have the award, the John family, who it's the opposite of that. So it's an award for somebody who's not going to a 4-year school, but who's really going, is starting like now. And one of the, so 2 kids won that, and one of them is a young man who's going to start power washing. Right out of high school, if you're a high school person. It's not meaning, but it was really because there was these key moments in the award ceremony that were very wonderful. Graduation, Principal York gets total kudos on making the difficult call to go inside. There's a rain break before and everything would have been wet, so rain dangerous. And it was really well done, organized, like to military operational standards. And it was a really, really consistently Maynard student-centered ceremony.
The acoustic.
I really,
Fantastic.
I totally agree. So I give WADM credit for having that set up. Yep.
Total show. I mean, it was so good.
But yeah, I
Likes the chills. They were, everybody was making this night. I would err on the side of saying let's do it inside all the time. I know that's not necessarily popular, but when you're outside.
It does.
Yeah.
It's,
The
it feels more
system
doesn't
doesn't
have like the big screen.
Yeah, the really yes.
And it was live stream.
It was.
And they had a theater going. I mean, it's your traditional graduation, etc. But then one the valedictorian speechless if you were there, or if you made the field Lavon was hysterical. The whole thing, but at one point it said, who would have imagined in 7th grade I was the hero? All right. Yeah, with Brian. And one of the young ladies played a song, a Taylor Swift song, a solo on guitar, which is the same song that she played at the 8th grade, 4 years ago. So there was some really special.
So it's all after you.
Yes. Yeah, so it was kind of a special moment for everybody. Follow graduation is coming up on Tuesday, and Principal Barlow, who's going to get through those because the weather is so unpredictable. We're just making it safe, nice call, and that graduation will be excited well. And Green Meadow, we'll keep our fingers crossed. They have the moving up ceremony on Friday about 9:15. Yep, and we're just going to keep our fingers crossed for good weather. You've had lots of exciting. So for our comments on the, oh wait, can you go back to that and then talk with one more screen?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, that was it.
That was it.
I thought that was it, but I might be wrong.
Oh, that might be it. Then I just have one more in terms of,
Add it.
yeah, retirees. I'm sorry, you did it right. Thank you very much. You were fabulous. Retirees, we have Sue Bradley, who's a paraprofessional, who's been here 14 years. Mike Meehan, who left us mid-year. He was a grade 3 teacher and he was here 14 years. And that's it.
Do they still do at the Green Meadow? I mean, I think they still, he's instituted that tradition of the welcome. Is that still or in some form or fashion?
In some form or fashion.
Okay, all right. I knew that it was very popular. The first dedicated,
The first
to
day
that.
students.
and just every day, every time I did, you could roll the red carpet out and just read them all like they're rock stars entering, high five, Brian used to have there. So I know he's super committed to that. It just made it a moment of excitement.
And then last but not least, I don't want to remember Lisa Elkins, who's actually fought and for 20 years. So some big losses there. They devoted, 14, 20 years, long time to us, done well in my own person. So we wish them all success. And now we'll go back to course, if I can turn it over to the literacy, I would introduce Principal Barr and Ash. Well, link question. They will a literacy update. And just so you guys remember, the microphone is not right by, just send them front tables. If you can speak that direction, that helps, I think, direction. Well, no,
Yeah.
You're standing closer to the mic.
We want to thank everybody from the school committee for having us back. This is our literacy initiative review back with some data information that was asked prior to this. Several years ago, when I came into this, Michael first brought up the idea of looking back at our literacy programs. He went out and contacted companies and really got involved rolling in there, created a committee. That committee then, between elementary school and middle school, came together and we ran several pilot programs the year after that. This took place after a lot of research, contacting other districts and learning and finding out what they were doing. There are aspects that we really did learn from this last several years in order to do this. Part of it is the fact that have faith in the district teachers that you have. Understand that they all come together, they're here to do a great job, care about the children. Second of all is give them the resources they need. After that, we start talking about what is the professional development you need to have. Creating any type of program, literacy, math, science, social studies, or any other thing, takes multiple years. It is not a one and done, cannot just continue and stop and they go on to the next thing. So we have learned that after several years, we are still working, we are still creating, we are still looking at what we have, and then moving forward to new programs and new resources and new professional development. Because it should never stop. You got to continue to grow. The assessments that we've brought in that we have at Green Meadow is the Early Bird Early Literacy Assessment. About 3 years ago, Jeff Ferranti actually introduced us to the program, and it kind of, we were looking at it, and then when Erin Lindquist came on board, she really pushed it forward as far as that being used. It is used in the kindergarten and in the first grade. It gives us a lot of data as far as any potential risks that may take place. This allows us, as we've created and will adopt the model for next year, abandon the wait to fail model. Okay, you cannot, and that's what this is. The early bird gives us an opportunity to look ahead. Who may have those potential risks and what are we going to work with? We also have ran into the program where we are using the DRA reading assessment that measures reading accuracy, fluency, and comprehension. Then we have DIBELS 8, which is going to be acquisition of literacy skills and fluency. Along with that is we have the Amplify Entrance for the Spanish Immersion program, which actually can be used as a DIBELS for all students. And at some point, we may be moving towards that in order to make sure. And we also use the DIBELS and the mazes at the middle school. So we have a lot going on there. Lexia Learning is an instructional resource that is also used. So we just want to give you a little bit of information. We've really stated the fact that in order to talk about instruction and talk about how we're doing this, we needed to have baseline of information. And with that was where and how are our kids doing? We looked at the assessment of DRA, and the idea is percentage of students on grade level or above grade level. All right, what you're going to see is 86% of the students in kindergarten. Grade 1 is at 37%, grade 2 at 85%, and grade 3 at 80%. That grade 1, which we will say we own because we have a lot of plans for that, I want you to think about this. Those grade 1 students 2 years ago were in preschool. Knows what happened 2 years ago, as we all know, right? That was that time period with those students. We're still seeing that residual effect of that time period. What is our plans? And we're going to talk about those plans momentarily. I'll have Karen speak about those. with this, but we acknowledge the fact that our grade 2 and grade 3, based on what we put together, the idea of bringing in programs such as integrity, bringing in programs as far as learning and teaching and bringing professional development for reading, bringing those all together. We notice now that we are being successful. The kids are getting all the instruments that they need to be successful. Grade 2 and grade 3, the kids we've had the longest. Kindergarten did not have to go through the COVID period. But that grade 1, that's your blend here. Right, so we're going to talk about what we're going to do in order to continue to improve those kids. Next.
So this is our early bird learning assessment data. So as Rob mentioned, this analyzes risk factors for reading difficulties, challenges in reading by looking really closely at oral language comprehension and reading and phonetic awareness, sounds and symbol correspondence, naming speed, rapid reading speed. And so we give this assessment 3 times a year, and early bird will run a risk assessment for us on all of our students in kindergarten, beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year. And so when you look at that data, at the beginning of the year, 44% of kindergartners were considered at risk for reading difficulty or challenge. And by the end of the year, 7% of that same group of students were considered at risk. Our kindergarten team worked really hard with small group instruction, with really evidence-based instruction, lots of professional development with early bird and literacy specialists there to develop a small group, really explicit instruction and lessons for their students. So we're really proud of the work that they've done. That's hugely successful. Grade 1, this is actually early bird piloted grade 1 assessment last year. We were not part of that pilot. So this is their first year of implementation. And we've asked them because why? Because they didn't assess risk factors in the spring. In the fall. And so we didn't have that data for grade 1. We did have it at the end of kindergarten in this particular cohort. There were a lot of areas that we had some concerns for them. They did do the middle of the year assessment. 59% of students were considered at risk, and end of year, still 50% of students at risk. Now, the important thing to remember about that doesn't mean that 50% of our students have a reading disability or are at risk for dyslexia per se. It means that when you look at those specific skill areas and strands, we need to make sure that we're providing them with explicit instruction in those areas to build those skills up so that that counts for them. They don't present with those challenges in grade 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade or beyond that. So we recognize between our early bird data and our DRA2 data that this particular cohort is a cohort that we need to focus in on. So next year, we have a targeted instructional plan for our grade 1 students and our grade 1, because we want to make sure that we're really getting our instruction right in grade 1, that we don't see this as something that's going to happen again or continue to happen. But that grade 2 group, we know they're still an at-risk group. We still need to put a lot of our energy and resources into that group. So our ELA coaches will be focusing on those particular grades with coaching cycles throughout next year. Our students are going to be carefully monitored for growth throughout the year. We have a Title I Spanish immersion and multilingual teacher who focus on grade 1 and grade 2 cohorts, because we have a large population of multilingual students in that cohort moving to grade 2. But many of them were beginners this year as first graders. So we know that we need to be providing them at a level of intervention and services. Kindergarten and grade 1 will be piloting a new evidence-based phonics program. They actually did their training this afternoon, which was really exciting. We're using the Wiley Web created program through Sadler called From Phonics to Reading. It is very evidence-based. It has all the strands and components. We know that our students are needing that have been identified by Early Bird. It is a rated green on Curate and on Ed Report, highly regarded program. We did some research around it. They are using it in Westboro Public Schools currently. This is their second year of implementation in Westboro, and they've had huge success with all populations of students. So we're really looking forward to this implementation next year for the students. And then we'll continue with our professional development across the board in all areas. So we know it's a needs, but we've got a plan in place. So excited about our next step.
The second part is because these come from multiple lists. So the second part to look at is what is our DIBELS file, all right? So not just a DRA, we're going to look at another area. And in there, and it's what was great about it is you have your early bird information, you have the DRA, and you have the DIBELS. It all comes together. And that actually says the exact same story, which is fabulous, right? So in grade 2, students with oral reading fluency of 90% or above, or 87% of the students. In grade 3, 84% of those students had an oral reading fluency of 90% or above. We went down to our M-Class Spanish immersion, and using their DIBELS is kindergarten was an 85%, just like we saw before. There's a little drop in your first grade, 65%, back climbing back up in your grade 2 at 80%. And we didn't have the information, but I calculated it today. The third grade is at 76%. So that tells the same kind of story as we're going along, that we know and we're going to put all of our resources, or where we're going to put our resources in the upcoming year. All right, areas to build upon. You have to have a plan after everything is going through, and we do. And it really falls into these 4 areas: professional development. Kindergarten and grade 1 staff is going to continue the professional development and early bird learning. Kindergarten and grade 1 team will train the literacy specialists from Sadler, and the ELA coaches will support K2 teams to codable text professional development. In the area of daily schedule and pacing, kindergarten and grade 2 schedules will have 100 to 110 minutes a day for literacy instruction. And the special educators and L students or ML students, teachers will work with general education staff to provide in-class services as much as possible. We've already created the schedules, and we've already started having the special education teachers create their schedules and where they will be pushing models for next year. So that's already done. So we already know where that is going to take place. The implementation planning for kindergarten and grade 1, phonics to reading, as Karen stated, starting with training this month, which has already happened. And then instructional planning. Grade level teams will continue to plan together with special education teachers, L teachers, and our ELA coaches. We are extremely pleased and happy the fact that the support that was given to us by central office and you when it came time, especially around the budget times, we know it's difficult. We thank you because we can tell that we're going to where we need to go. We need to continue with that. So thank you.
All right, and good evening. My name is Mike Barth, principal in the Fowler School, and I'd like to talk about the assessments that we have at the Fowler School, and then I'll also present some data on the next slide. So for grades 4 and 5, we use the Maze, the DIBELS, and our CKLA unit assessments, which also have beginning, end of year and unit assessments. The Maze measures reading comprehension. The DIBELS, as Rob explained, measures oral reading fluency. And for CKLA, it measures your content knowledge, beginning, end of year, and end of unit as well. For our grades 6 through 8, we have unit assessments, writing tasks and essays in Amplify ELA curriculum. And we also give the Maze, but just for grade 6 only. And that measures reading comprehension. In Spanish immersion, we have the M-Class assessment. And that's something that I know Mr. Karajanis will be rolling out, not just as a free pilot, but rolling out as a product that we're buying into starting next year. And we also, for the whole school, all grades 4 through 8 take the Star Renaissance benchmark assessments. And those are nationally normed. And they also have the ELA MCAS. And believe it or not, we actually got our data yesterday for that. So it's not data that we can talk about yet, but we do have it to start to plan internally.
Do we set a smile on our faces? That's a big thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Speak emoji.
Yeah, no, sure. And that MCAS data has been shared with Keith Kinney and David Snyder, as well as Lauren Juntar and TSS coach that will stay on for next year. So They are feeding into that.
It's done. Like, I'm guessing this, they're all recent. I wasn't sure the time.
Well, ours,
I'm not sure.
is for MCAS for, is a little bit earlier, so that's our first
Yeah,
MCAS.
April,
So then our end of year kind of comes after.
comes after that.
Yeah, which is kind of hard because they're taking a lot of
A
that.
lot of assessment.
But
These numbers have been updated. They're not too far off of what you have, but they've been updated due to just some setting that we had wrong. Plus, we had a bunch of students make up the test that weren't there. But our end of year grade equivalent for grade 4, and this would be on the STAR assessment, is a 5.4. And so that is significantly above level. But our DIBEL shows that 72% are on or close to benchmark. So a bit of a difference there in our data. Grade 5 Star Renaissance has end of year grade equivalent. Again, these are nationally normed benchmarks at 6.2. So you'd want to see that 5th graders are kind of ready for 6th grade, coming in with a 6.0. So pretty much right where they need to be, 80% at or on or close to benchmark on the DIBELs. Grade 6, the grade equivalent at end of year was 7.2. The Maze was 86% on or close to benchmark, and the STAR was 85% at or close to benchmark. So STAR gives you a grade equivalent, but it also gives you the percentage of students who are at or close to benchmark. It gives you a bunch of other data too. The grade 7 end of year grade equivalent is 7.8. STAR was 89% at or close to benchmark, and there was a not a quantitative, but a qualitative observation of a notable improvement in writing in both 7th and 8th grade by the faculty. And in 8th grade, the average end of year grade equivalent was 7.7, which is off what we would want it to be. We would want it to be closer to 9, so students be going into 9th grade. The STAR showed, but it did show that 84% are at or close to benchmark. Again, a notable improvement in writing. And as we look at that grade 4 score that surprised us being low, and started to kind of mine into it and figure out what on, we did notice that about 40 of our students at grade 9 or above, in terms of how they assess, there's only 79 students in grade 8. So it's the lowest grade that's come through Fowler and all my time of being here. Next year, all of our grades are above 100.
That was the first, like,
But
I think like their 6th grade is when they, right, that, so 2 years.
they would have had studied COVID. Yeah. Yeah. So, but 40 students out of those 79 were at grade 9 or above. We just have this bubble of kids that seems to be about 15 that scored very low on it. And so we're exploring further what happened, what's going on. My reaction is never to blame the test or blame the day or blame the circumstances. We have to own the data and then crosswalk it with other data to really see what's going on there. But further work and exploration would be needed in that.
Like, so can you back to that slide for a second? So you might have said this, but there are different numbers there.
Yes, I said that. Yeah, we had a setting that was wrong when we entered the data before, and also we've had students make it up that were asked.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the numbers are a little bit.
And then for grade 8, you said that there are how many kids at a very school?
About 15 had a very low score out of our students that are 79 students, and 40 were at grade 9 or above. So there was just kind of a weird, not a kind of a bell curve like you tend to maybe want to see, but kind of almost 2 blips in there, and it brought the average end of year grade equivalent, it brought it down. So we do need to kind of really dig into that and figure out what's going on with those students that are presenting very low, at least on the STAR assessment.
And one more thing, sorry. And the next thing is that the STAR does measure only reading, even though it mentions writing on there. You're correct.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And they also take STAR from math, but that's just not what we're talking about tonight.
Mike,
Sure.
How, once you kind of delve into that, how is that going to translate to those kids going to high school? Because obviously, you guys aren't going to be teaching them next year.
Right.
So how is that going to, transition to what they need to to learn.
I want to see if they can get to the presentation and I want to go for that. Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry.
Something that we can-
Yeah, no, because I know
Sure.
we'll.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so the, what I was gonna talk about is more kind of our pilot. Not pilot, well, sort of. Our new programs for CCAR and Amplify. We've been working with a consultant that Desi assigned to us through our grant. And we've had a whole team of teachers in grades 3 through 5 that have been working together with this consultant. I've been kind of working with the teachers and also with the administrative team a little bit. So we've met with the consultant as an administrative team weekly, pretty much for months, right? Since the early spring, late winter. And then the teachers have also met and done some training and met almost like every other week or so. With the consultant. She's been fantastic. And one of the results of this is that we're going to be working with her on some training. So Heather is her name. And one of the things that she pointed out to us was that a huge success was 100% of all of the teachers are actually using the program. And she said, I don't. I was like, oh, that seems like it's obvious. And she said, no, I went to some districts and boxes are still sitting in the back of the classroom. So everybody had materials, everybody used the curriculum. We did surveys, we surveyed students, we surveyed staff. We didn't survey parents yet because one of the things that we discussed with the consultant was, although this was our first year of implementation, because we had a DESI grant with so many parameters around it, we moved so fast to roll this out. It's just how we could get everything for free. And so this was kind of like our first year to really dig in and get to know the program. So we decided that we would kind of call this like our implementation year and kind of make sure we have things in place. The grant runs out at the end of August. So she's going to be doing some training with administration and with teachers at the end of August. We're excited about that. The administration is committed to developing a professional learning and support plan for us, and they've been amazing as far as being supportive of what the teachers need, being part of the process, and it's been really great. Another highlight for me has been the collaboration that we've had between Fowler and Green Meadow, and it's really been huge highlight for us. So some of this data is from the student surveys, and the consultant also gave a report to the teachers that she shared with us. Areas for us to build upon, of course, is always room for growth. Professional development, which I mentioned, we will have some at the end of August. The other exciting part is this grant we believe will continue. So we will get more money from DESI and we'll be able to hit with this grant. We did have a little bit of training from Amplify. Teachers weren't, that gave them as much of what they needed. And I know that the Novak group did some training with the 3rd grade staff. So we've had a lot of ongoing discussions and have some plans in place for professional development for next year. Instructional planning. So we've had that literacy team I mentioned with representatives from grades 3, 4, and 5. We've had some SPED people. I've represented the ML population. So it's been a really strong planning process. And so that will continue on. Our daily schedule was one of the struggles that we had this year. And we just didn't have quite enough time in our schedule to be able to implement everything with fidelity. We really need 90 minutes. And that's what we have in our schedule for next year. So we're very excited about that. Implementation and planning. So the literacy team has decided to use instruction partners, as I mentioned, which is Heather and her company. They're from Tennessee, and she's been fantastic, and all of the staff has really enjoyed, and the administrators, I believe, have enjoyed working with her. So we're gonna continue with that for the future. Hopefully, we'll be able to hire them again also in the fall to do some more TV.
So we have it for free until August, and then we're gonna start.
We're gonna get another grant. I believe. So that's what we're trying to do is stick with this. If they offer it, we're gonna take it. And get
The same amount.
I don't know, I believe so. So originally the grant was for, I think it was like 80,000, and then they divided it in half and gave us half for this year. With the, like, if we meet expectations by doing all we're supposed to do, I think we'll. And Charles would be the expert on that, but I think that's how. He is the grant guru. I'm learning a lot from him. So 6 to 8 has been great also in that 100% of the ELA teachers and support staff like the special ed has been using Amplify, which has been awesome. Teachers have reported that students they're writing a lot more with Amplify. And that they believe, this is kind of anecdotal by observations with MCAS, et cetera. We did a lot of practice with MCAS with the MTSS team. They believe that their stamina and skills have increased. That's why I'm smiling about the MCAS. I'm hoping that it transfers to that. I mean, anytime you have a new program 1 year, like as an implementation, it definitely takes some time to really figure out what's working and what's not. But we have faith. And part of the survey, which I thought was great, was 88% of the students in grades 6 to 8 reported that their writing has improved this year. And it was a similar grades 3 to 5. So the areas to build upon for 6 to 8, I feel like are a little bit more than 3 to 5. The focus for DESI, the grant, we had to pick a grade level there. So we chose grades 3 to 5 because when we made the decision, we felt like there were just more teachers that we would be able to impact. In 6 to 8, there are 3 teachers and then the special ed teachers and supporting staff. So there just were a lot more teachers. So we started there and we thought maybe we'd be able to include 6 to 8 next round, but that's not how the grant is working. I believe they're going to have us continue the 3 to 5 plan. But what we're learning and what we're doing applies completely to grades 6 to 8. And we're hoping that we'll be able to invite them to some of the trainings that we're doing. Although the focus has to be 3 to 5, we can include them in trainings going forward that we have. So professional development is definitely needed. This was the cohort of teachers that we just basically said, here you go, this is the new program, it's great, it's got a green light on Curate and everything else, but they didn't have the chance to pilot as the other grades did. So it was, a lot, and they've done awesome. They've embraced it. They've done a great job, but I feel like we need to, as a district, completely support them going forward. Make sure we keep them in our plans. Instructional planning. So similar to CKLA, the process needs to be put into place to create content-specific instruction. The vision to hold the center for expectations for teachers and students. So we're still working on that piece with the consultant, but it will apply also to 6 to 8. One of the things about the 6 to 8 ELA is that it's all online. It's all on the computer, every day. So we found that some kids have embraced it. Some kids are like, oh, again, on the computer. They want a book in their hand. There are a couple of books, but not enough. So what we'd like to do is maybe look at purchasing some books so that the teachers don't have to do everything just online, so that they have a little bit of option. So that's something we've talked about, and I'm hoping we can support teachers with, and maybe add 1 book a year or something like that to get a couple of the novels in their hands. The vertical collaboration, teachers expressed a desire to work vertically, and that we started some of that work. Chuck had us, starting to look at some of that, and the teachers really love to be able, especially at that level, they want to see what's happening above, below. So that's something we'd like to continue, and look for opportunities next year for grades 6 through 8, because they're all little islands by themselves to be able to work together. So that's something that we'll look into. As I mentioned, the schedule next year will be 90 minutes of literacy for grades 4 and 5. And that's what is recommended by Amplify, so I feel like we're in a good place there. And grades 6 to 8 is their schedule and supports the amount of minutes that I recommend. So I think that we all set that way. So this year, it was kind of, although it was our first year, I feel like I would consider it, or the consultant said, we could think about it as a pilot. That's fine.
Great job. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll go around to ask. Oh, Hillary, sure. Hillary, do you have some questions?
Sure. This was really helpful. I appreciate this. It was really nice to see the data for K and 1 and the plan for following up with that. My question is just for the very last piece of that last slide, when it was saying the rotating schedule to improve equity and inclusion. I wasn't getting that piece. And then I just want to say I also love that the effort to move to some hard copies, because that's the only complaint I've heard about the CKLA is that the kids are annoyed being on the computers. So I love that. But can you just explain a little bit about that last piece with the rotating schedule?
Absolutely, Hillary. It's a great question. For forever at Fowler, our schedule has been a fixed schedule. So when you had ELA period A, you have it that way for 180 days. If you have ELA right after lunch, you have it that way for 180 days. And so for the middle level, so not for 4th and 5th, 4th and 5th will have a non-rotating fixed schedule where every child comes in and has literacy in the morning and then math right after that. And so they don't need to, because every child can have it right when they learn literacy best. For the middle level, we identified that our schedule wasn't equitable for students who might have literacy at a time of day when they don't learn literacy best, or they might have history at a time of day when they don't learn history best, or math and vice versa. Also, students who are chronically late to school are missing their first period class. And if that's ELA in grades 6 through 8, they're just missing their literacy lesson. And they might arrive at 9 o'clock after the class is over. We also have students that get dismissed for a number of reasons, including athletics, which is perfectly acceptable. And they're missing the same class every time they get dismissed. So as many schools have done, we've implemented a rotating schedule. It's one of the most exciting changes that I was able to see, except I won't be able to see it actually being implemented. So I'm bummed out about that. But I'm happy that I was able to be a part of that work on the scheduling committee. So now the schedule will rotate in 6 through 8. The thing that jammed us up very quickly all these years, and we always knew we needed to do it, is because we have shared staff who need to be at the high school at a certain time. And if our schedule rotated, they wouldn't, maybe their class would be in the afternoon at Fowler when they needed to be at the high school. So we always just kiboshed it. What occurred to us was, let's fix the specials in place, because those are our shared staff teachers, such as Mr. Kozik, and let's rotate academics around the specials. So next year in grades 6 through 8, and it does take a bit of understanding, and everybody will have to get used to it. The specials will always be at the same time every day, but the academics are going to rotate on a 4-day rotation. If you have ELA period A, then that period A on day 1 may be in the morning. On day 2, that period may be right before lunch, and day 3, it might be at the end of the day. So it rotates across a rotation. We're not dropping a period. Everybody will have all their classes every day. I know other schools might have drop periods and things like that. We're not doing that. So everybody will still have all 5 of their academics every day, but they'll rotate. So it adds equity because it creates fairness in terms of the way that students learn best. It changes the time of day for everybody and gives everybody a level playing field. And so everybody has a chance to have ELA in the morning. Everybody has a chance to have math in the morning. And and as a result, it's more inclusive. So it's just more supporting of all of our students in the way that they learn.
That makes total sense. That hadn't clicked for me, but I love that. That's a great idea. Thank you for implementing that. That's fabulous.
Absolutely, it's exciting.
Lori, any other questions? Laura?
We need to read.
Question?
I can talk, I can answer your question.
What's happening with the kids that are in 8th grade that got the low scores? How are you maybe working with the high school on how to give them support to get some great?
So we haven't, I'll talk to that. We haven't started that yet, but that's what Denise was talking about with vertical collaboration. And there's a real opportunity here for Mr. Karajanis to bring that data to the ELA team at the high school and in 9th grade and make sure they understand this data, understand those students that did score very low so that they could, you know, we still don't know if maybe it was a fluke and something else was going on there that may not really be indicative of their true proficiency level. But we do own that data and it's going to need to be shared with that 9th grade team. It's not something we've begun yet, but vertical collaboration will need to happen there for sure.
So I guess I'm wondering what the timing is going to be. If now we're at the, this year, teachers aren't really working for the summer, so
Right.
how did that get implemented between when they come back sometime in August to like when it's
Yeah, I think a lot of things happen within the first 2 weeks of the school year, where a lot of information is being shared about students that didn't get shared right at the end of the year. And I think in a lot of ways that's better because you didn't have 2.5 months to sort of like sit on it and kind of forget about it. So I think, I think a lot of the community feels that, you know, on the first day of school, teachers dive right into the curriculum. And there's so much community building and such that happens that really the first couple weeks of the school are kind of ramping up. And there's opportunities there for that. I mean, for sure. Would everybody agree with me on that?
well, with having previous high school students, I have an 8th grader going to so I can see that.
It's actually a summit with the high school Fowler counselors that's occurring tomorrow and next day, to specifically go over students that are moving into the high school, so they get starting disseminating that information to the high school teachers. So that's very important.
Lori, did you hear that? Okay.
Also, they took a lot of assessments. We've been assessing. It's a lot, which is MCAS and their assessments. It's a lot. So some of them need that. Done. You know, so I think it's a little all time.
Right.
Yeah.
8th grade, and they're like, okay, I probably had
6 days of them class.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And did they do the civics school this year? or No.
no, we did not do the civics pilot this year, but they did ELA math and science. So
Yeah.
6 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you, I'm on that. Check, is there an opportunity for the students to do summer school or something like that?
There are enrichment programs being offered.
It's being offered to the 15 specifically, you know, to these students that are maybe falling a little bit behind. Do we offer anything? I mean, I know we have the regular, but would they fall into that category?
Honestly, don't know if there was specific allocation.
I don't think so.
Not that level. It's not
But
just regular.
the problem is that summer enrichment camp got to 42 students and sort of full for the number of faculty that we have. And that happened, all those signups happened before we even had this end of the year data. Yeah,
Post.
right.
So we'll look forward to hearing.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the MCAS. If it supports the STAR data or if it's, you know. If it's,
We just need to have those students start off behind, you know, it's a tough way to start in 9th grade.
Mary, did you have?
Yes, I did, if I could. So, and actually, Rob, this goes back to you. So the VRA data for 2 through 3, we talked about how this one, the Dibbles, grade 2. So So we talked about how grade one. At the one. Oh, no.
It's updated or not?
That was the update. Oh, that's grade 2 and 3. Never mind. I had the wrong grade. So, the question that I've got is with the K2, daily schedule change of having 100 to 110 minutes a day for literacy. Is anything else being lessened as a result of that? Is the schedule going to be altered to incorporate that?
We can't magically put any more time, Mary, into the day,
Right,
but.
but I'm figuring something.
Well, we are, we're actually also adding a 60-minute math block into the day. What is being lessened? Most likely, we're looking at our weight blocks as a possibility of being lessened. The resources that are now purchased nowadays are looking for specific time periods in order to be able to be in, right? So, I didn't think we really looked at anything. Oh, I'm sorry, we were specials. So here we had 6 specials. We went to 5 specials. That gained us 30 minutes. That was a conversation we had about a year ago in regards to some things. So again, you take that 30 minutes, you put that away from a special into an instructional class there. You just gauge yourself 90 hours of instruction. So
See, the way we created the schedule for next year and for special education, so it just tightened everything up a little bit, nothing, we didn't
Reducing, taken away.
No, just made the blocks a little bit more seamless. So that we could get a little bit more and for
Excellent.
excellent.
because the kids are always together and they weren't moving from one teacher to another separate specials. We can make those, she said, we don't need all that transition time between, because it's always the same teacher that's.
Yeah, we have definitely heard in the past that there was a lot of transition, a lot of lost time. It's going from special to special in there. Thank you. And then the same thing you, Mike, with the 90 minutes. Is anything altered as far as being lessened or?
For 4 and 5.
Yes.
So for 4 and 5, we have 4-day schedule found, so day 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And so of those 4 days, 2 of them, will be planning time, and then 2 of them will be specials. In the past, it's been all 4 days they would have specials, so they've reduced their number of specials a little bit. So instead of having 2 per day, they'll have 2 on 2 of the days in the cycle and 1 on the other days, which gains them some time. Because it's
Thank you for doing
Yeah,
that.
a ton of time doing that.
yeah,
It's nice.
and the teachers feel like they didn't have a plan time every day, but they still want it. Yeah, they still want it, but it'll be. I think it'll be a lot better.
This was great because it came from teachers.
Yes.
They wanted this and it was their things.
And the common planning times between everyone in the same grade level.
Correct.
That was it. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna take what Darrell and Mary asked, ask a couple more questions about that first. So those 15 kids, one question I have is, are their parents notified of that? Are they? The summer maybe definitely.
That's a good question. We have never utilized the STAR parent report. It is there in STAR. It would be something that the district could choose to roll out, where parents would get a STAR report. It's not something we've ever chosen to do. I'm not exactly sure why. I just sort of haven't done it, and I haven't asked the question all these years. But there is a STAR parent report that we just have not been sharing with families these years. In terms of reaching out to these families and kind of encouraging them to read, I think that's a really great. I hadn't thought of it.
Are they across the board when we're looking at kids who are at risk? Like you just gave us a lot of numbers of what percentage are at risk versus not at risk. How are those applied throughout all? Like your kid is at risk or not? But
Yeah, so I think in the younger grades, the conferences would be there, but also in contact with parents, like beyond those 2 conference times. And so it's generally driven by conversations the teachers have with parents to let them know that we have some concerns, but also what our next steps are, right? Nobody's picking up the phone or emailing to say your child's just not being successful. It's always with that. So these are the next steps we're going to take to ensure that their child.
Yeah.
So lots of conversations in Green Meadow, lots of conversations around additional tier 2 supports that are provided to students. And then, we have a BDST model that's been sort of revamped over the last few years, and it's been really impactful. And parents are always part of that process is having conversations with parents ahead of time to get their input and feedback, and then after each of the meetings, and to keep them updated about progress monitoring.
So that's only if they come to the meetings.
We actually have over.
53 students brought up to BDST. So
Okay.
that's a lot of students.
Okay, so it is, there is a systemized way, it's, it is starting to fall behind, that there's no.
I think remember our, reading data makes a lot of difference. I mean, in secondary, and great support of getting proper supports. Teaching all, those 15 students that we're talking about. I remember, I want to see more data on them, but, how are their best scores? Like, how are the ratings? And sometimes, like I said, we've just been down on that day, the BT star assessment at the engineer, I'm sure that the teaching was support very good, but I'm like, oh, so that's, one of the things I wonder, we need to look at more data. We don't have as many assessments, formal assessments there. So for, for the MCAS data, when we've done some practice writing class, we've done that, the in-class assessments more than we would at the number grades. Just the data looks different.
Okay, and the Amplify doesn't have other data that's collected.
Amplify grades for ELA grades 6 to 8 does not have like the grades. I don't know. Green has
Different.
Green is different. There are yeah, the 4 and 5 at the beginning of the assessment, the year assessment. The beginning is given like in October, and then there's one at the end of the year, and then they have unit assessments. In grades 6 to 8, they have ongoing writing, like we write essays and just different types of assessments. So it's not like at the beginning and end of the year, like we're doing 4 and 5. So.
And writing's not the same as reading, so that's.
And it's not the same as reading, and it's a lot of it's embedded, throughout the units.
Right, so just like a teacher teaching a class.
Teacher
And that is
teaching
how
class,
teachers teach the experience.
Right.
And here it's something they give, but there's no systemized way of gathering data that can be still distilled and then kind of passed on to besides the list. And MCAS, where you can say that here it's.
Those are the two.
Yeah, because I'm only asking this, like, it's a really good point, because as you know, the kids who don't do elementary grade are the ones where that. If we have the gap here, then that could be a real problem, and it is traditionally a problem when the kids do come to 9th grade under the read. That isn't America, because there is not really a way that we're monitoring and using the data that we have to make sure that we're catching these kids. So if we are collecting this data and we are collecting at the time these kids are here, I just want to make sure that we are making sure that we're catching these kids and doing what we have to do so that by the time we get to 9th grade, they know how to read and that we know who the kids are.
And I mean, our process as well.
I think we all, and I also have, I go over everything that's been said by probably every school committee member, but just to not belabor, but I think there is an opportunity here, and I want to make sure, like you said something, we know the date. So whatever the reason that is the result, it is ours, and I think as we value parents as partners in the education of their kids, sometimes it's a lot of opportunity for them. So I just would kind of take that as a takeaway. If there's an opportunity of why, starting with the STAR parent report, why that is not able to be shared. If there's an opportunity there, Brian, yourself, just to kind of bring that back to the team to think about how we can incorporate parents to at least kind of put it on their radar so they can educate themselves as well. Sometimes parents are not familiar with literacy and all the aspects. It's not very intuitive as non-educators. I think it's an opportunity to bring them into the conversation earlier as possible.
Yeah, so all of this is great. So I want to make sure that it's like that's not impeded. So, but I do think that, yeah, there is, and I do worry about 9th grade. And the other thing I worry about is, I looked at the, you know, what the ninth graders are reading when they come in, and they're reading Dickens, and they're reading Boston, and they're reading Knight. And so I'm wondering how the eighth grade program where they're reading mindlessly, what are they reading? If they're not reading novels,
Everything, they are reading some novels,
but it's.
most of it, I think there are.
I think they were the outsiders. Maybe they did this year. No?
Well, I think that, the teachers started the year with some curriculum that you used to have with the novel, and then went into the, ELA, so. Most of it is online, but there is one text, and then the texts are extremely complex, it's very complex. It's very complex.
Yes, and again, I teach ninth grade English, and so that's why, so the thing is that, you know, you can tell if a kid is not, if they can't write well, that stuff learns. But it is also like, by the time kids get started, they're very good at seeing how poorly they read, if they do that, careful about it. It's like that, since we have, we are giving so much data, I just think that should have.
Absolutely.
What'll be very easy, and we seems tomorrow, because our SD is so fresh, like 2 hours ago, we got it and I shared it. Just internally with a few people, is to pull out those, there's actually 14 students, pull them out and actually see how did they do on MCAS.
And
And
how
that's
are
gonna
their
be-
grades?
Yeah, and how are their grades in the ELA class?
Yeah, especially with concept grade, it's like the grade is like, if, you know, how did you do this stuff, this writing.
Our, yeah, our eighth grade data was the strongest in school last year for MCAS. So I'll be curious to see how that has transferred over the year. So yeah. we look into that.
So a couple of questions. One, I love again, own the data. I think sometimes we always looking to find reason to explain something and it is what it is. And I know, let's just own it and make plans for it. I really appreciate you sharing that. Report from the consultant, Heather, or is that something that the school committee? Like, that's so no, when she leaves in August, right? She's leaving in August.
She also gave a report for the teachers.
So is is there at the end of the year, like, August, like the, like. She doesn't have it. I'm wondering like when she's done, she's leaving in August, right?
I don't think there's another shot. Her job through the grant is to help us create a landscape for our implementation and developing a vision for our literacy instruction. So that's
Because that's in August or she like, that's that's what I was thinking is about like including like any recommendations about training, what that's done or other.
She's putting together the fund, sure.
Okay, so it's more personalized for.
Yeah, it's exactly what.
Okay.
So it'll be August, we'll start at the beginning and then should say it's another report calling back to October or December or whatever.
Right.
As we so it's not started yet. August is actually the beginning.
But the August training
This
is the result of the recommendations that came from the landscape.
So it's not going to include, I guess maybe I was thinking about where to go forward.
That's so the landscape. It's about what our next step should be. The training is
from
the result of recommendations. Or the sort of the summary of what teachers asked for, administrators asked for, whatever students were asking for. So the training is the next step toward that. And then if we get the grants for the fall, then we will build off the landscape analysis. Or
Kind of couldn't do that. And now, what are our first steps?
Okay, no, thank you.
we try really.
Yeah,
We tried to accomplish.
that was in the picture. Yeah, that was in the full.
Oh,
I was thinking
I
about
saw that. Okay, I was looking sure that was something that I missed.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, is there any way, service questions? Oh, the grades going into the winter, going into ninth grade, is there gonna be, beginning of the year assessment? That might be able to do that, yeah. For those kids that are going in there, I know there were some that were taken for middle school, like beginning, middle, and end. Is there one that will happen? That we could also kind of see if there was a blip or,
So we're actually today. On our leadership meeting. Bringing in NWEA assessments through grade 10. This is an equal assessment. That would be in ELA and so that we can start to track students. This is probably the top end assessment program in the United States. So we can start tracking students with a great deal of accuracy in work areas within English language arts. And we hope to have that in place next year.
Great, so that might be a good bridge for.
Yes.
all of the short-
But also, this would be running from grade 1 to 10, so we could be
Oh.
tracking students' progress on an equal interval scale. It's also not a mastery test. So if a student is in 4th grade and takes the test and is reading on a 6th grade levels, many of our assessments currently just say, hey, you're great in 4th grade. Without really saying just how advanced is this particular student. Or if a student's deficient in 4th grade, it just kind of says you're deficient, and it doesn't indicate to what extent the deficiency is and in what specific areas within, say, ELA. So this ought to allow us to target interventions much more specifically by student. This is like, we're working on this right now. There are emails out right now. I'm looking for final pricing right now. So I can't say much more beyond
So
that.
that's actually great. That's just wanting to see if this an anomaly as we are wondering, or if it's something that we monitor that.
And this would probably take the place of some of the other assessments we traditionally use. So this wouldn't be like one more testing day. It would be, is this tool superior to some of the other tools we've been using? I think it is, and therefore we would probably have less total testing, but with a more accurate instrument.
Thank you. And then the other thing was just a comment I had to talk about next year with the literacy, really kind of bringing parents, making the literacy shines. Because I know that there's just a lot of, even if there's families in the district, because they're, have been concerned, so it'd be great to promote all the work that we've done. I've had people reach out to me and say, I'm hearing about this, how do I find out more about it? And I think if we could have like a literacy showcase of, and also to educate around the amplify, because I know that's another concern I've heard, which you already mentioned, that it's a lot on screen, but so they can see and understand what that.
Yeah, we've already talked about doing that. We just
Right.
felt like this year wasn't.
Right,
We weren't quite ready for that, but then.
Understood, but I think, yeah, that's.
Absolutely.
And it's on screen 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Only
It's not for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade.
No, I think those are the grades.
Those are the grades.
Parents, yeah, I understand that.
Screen time, and because they're trying to control it, and then is it more screen time, or is it I want to go on YouTube screen time that they're kind of giving people. And so I think that's where to
Yeah,
support,
absolutely.
how can we support the education and ensure that it's necessary versus just. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I'm not sure.
yeah,
But it's not typically like that, but so that at that point.
thanks for asking, 'cause I know that was something that we.
No, we did, but I just didn't want to ask teachers in their first year of learning it to like now present to parents, so that's why we want to have it.
Thank you.
I have one more kind of question. You mentioned that you changed this program. You changed from fun, what was it?
Foundation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To fun 5 to reading.
To walk the reading.
This episode is. We've spent a lot of time working with early bird learning and looking carefully at our data. And one of the things that came up in multiple data meetings from teachers, observations, and then in our work with the literacy specialist from early bird was that our kids were not being exposed to content early enough so that they could meet the benchmarks that we were hoping for them to meet. And so we had already been looking at phonics sheet, but it was so new that we were holding off so that other we could see whether it was really what it was hyped up to. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening and talking to literacy specialists for other districts. And it really, when looking carefully at the scope and sequence, it's just a stronger scope and sequence. It takes a lot of the really great instruction that we could try to pull together to bolster foundations, and it's already included in the curriculum. So we're really good about that. It's something that teachers are initially, I think the structure feels different than foundations, but as you dig into it, it's good practice and instructional practice they've already been using. So we think the transition will be great, but ultimately it's hard to shift the scope and sequence of a curriculum resource, right? You can add a lot to it, but to actually shift the scope and sequence is challenging. And so to be able to adopt something that already has that embedded, I think will be exactly what we're looking for. So the plan is to, initially the plan was just to pilot it in kindergarten this year, and then looking carefully, comparing the scope and sequence for what our kindergartners were getting this year to what they would need to be successful and honest reading. It was a close match. Our kindergarten team worked hard to give our current K what they were going to need to be able to enter into the first grade pilot. And then we'll pilot it in Q1 this year, and then roll it into second year after, assuming that it's wonderful.
So we just got to go on to what we were talking about earlier, is not necessarily satisfied with everything, taking a look at everything, and then looking at what we're doing in our resources, and then continue on. This is part of the reason why you can't just start a program, whatever you're going to do, and finish it in like, oh, we're done in 2 years, right? You always got to go back through it again and find out. And that's one of the areas where we, as we moved on, we said, we need awareness program, we need something else, we're going to. Phonics was one of those areas that Terry and I started talking about several years ago. There wasn't a lot out there. We came upon this program, but it's too early and it's, initiation in many districts. So we waited then, but this is going to work for us. And where are we as a district, where we're going to be? So this was the time to move forward.
Mike, are you for next week?
I haven't planned on coming this week. Oh, sure.
You can show up.
It's on the 22nd.
Yeah. Thursday? No, it's me Wednesday. No, what's Thursday?
I may or may not be able to. We have a personal event that evening, but
Well, if you're not able to, I just
Yeah.
wanted to also just extend my thanks. Off topic, but I know that you're leaving. And I just wanted to just tell you how much I appreciate. I'm sure everyone's been a stellar leader district through very hard times.
very much.
And I think it would be remiss for not acknowledge that publicly for all the work. And also, I mean, I know that you've been in some really, really positive relationships with students and staff through these years.
One of them's named Scarlett.
I know, I know, you're gonna be missed. You're a popular leader, so, and for all good reasons. So anyway, I just wanted to just take a moment to thank you for your leadership during very hard times for our district. You did the most.
Thank you very much. I have a special memory of every kid and Evan and asking him, I have a funny thing I have with Evan, I have a funny thing I have with Scarlett. It's almost like I have a custom handshake for every kid,
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do love the kids. The team here is what has made this success of our Fowler School possible. And we just have an incredible faculty and staff team that I was just lucky enough to be a part of for a blip in time. And
Very important.
keep us in good hands. Thank you.
So yes, anyway, so thank you so much. And thank you.
And we look forward to the next time that we're gonna see everybody here for the next, maybe in January or something, for the next update on the literacy chat. Does that sound okay? I like this twice a year. It's really good.
I think I like the idea that we're not relying only on MCAS scores to hear our students. Like that's what I like, is that we are focusing on other data. The MCAS is necessary to talk about, but it really doesn't speak to some of like all the awareness things, keeping this historical to see how we're working or improving, but areas like the grade, I think, and I thought that was really fantastic data to reflect on how year to year. And that can really show us some historical trends as we. So thank you. All right.
Okay.
You know, what are you gonna do now? Stop talking? Are you still in education or are you gonna?
Many different things, yeah. I'm, exploring, maybe taking the lighter lens for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But there's also some opportunities that have come forward that would maybe not be so light, and so I've just kind of explored a lot of things. I told the staff here this was my second favorite job. My favorite job was driving the school bus in college. It was a run. but I loved the job a lot. So I can do anything. I can do anything. Might be that guy that drives the bus.
And tomorrow we have a career connected learning day, and Mr. Barth is going to be representing a mechanic.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, or do some motorcycle meeting. Motorcycle meeting. Stand in the yard.
Excited about
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, well, now moving us
Yeah.
into.
Guys are.
Guys, yeah, feel like we're out of here. Brian, thank you for all the work that you put into, one, providing us with data, explaining data to us, ways for me as an educator, sometimes to kind of get to that point, giving us the space to kind of do these things and the person to do that. Share it with you during the year. So you have received our draft, and I think wanted to first ask, what your thoughts were. Some of the feedback. Your feedback? And I think I take that to us. Yeah.
I just,
Okay.
today.
Yes.
Literally.
So do we want to then we'll work together and everybody speak about it? 'Cause this is the first time that ever. So to look over it as well.
Can I just say I'm hearing like 5% of what you guys are saying. So I don't know if people can like try to speak into the microphone more. I was hearing a lot of like what Mr. Barth was saying and Karen was saying and stuff, but I'm hearing almost nothing of what the five of you are saying.
Can you hear at all now? Is it better?
Right this second, yes.
Better. Yeah.
Okay.
Big room.
I think it was facing that way.
Yeah, can you hear now? Because I turned the microphone, it was facing them earlier and.
Okay.
Helped a little bit, or not. So,
Okay.
Just she can't just shut off the recording that goes up online will also be hard to hear.
It would be,
Yeah.
yeah, because you have to remember to speak up, that's all.
Yeah, and the closed captioning is
But only-
incredibly inaccurate.
yeah, it only picks up, yeah, exactly, what it hears, and it's, I mean.
Well, it makes up what it thinks it might be hearing when it doesn't exactly hear. And it's said it's already said something pretty peculiar and bizarre. So we almost might not want it even turned on.
Not quoting, whatever that's.
So we're not gonna read it out loud.
No, I think we're just gonna go into the difference, for us, and then we can kind of, Brian's having a chance also to review it as well. And then we're not voting on anything today. It's just, first pass, provide feedback, how it's reflected, and, it seems like, tomorrow will be the compiler, with all the thoughts into what is never an easy task. So I think from there, does anybody have any questions on what they're seeing in step one? And assessing and I almost feel like this is a little bit backwards too. I actually was doing mine like the back, and then we kind of bring all the summary of stuff up front.
We're doing that next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we kind of start with that first, and then we go to then we bring it kind of, because it all is in the section. Like section.
Like if we
We
start,
start with page 3.
Yeah.
Because that's where we start with the goals, right? And we talk about our goals and everything. So the first goal, instructional learning, it looks like, significant and met in that sense. Professional practice, met. Family enhancement goal, met. And the feedback and comments here. Is there any questions or thoughts on comments that are written here that? Sure, yeah, yes. Just remember, just as, see if there's any questions. The comments are all thoughts. I'm all.
You're hoping.
Actually, so Brian, maybe I can ask you.
Other than the one thing was, and I don't remember who wrote it, but that somebody wrote NTRS. Okay, all right, I wasn't sure, so, yes, and I know she fixed my error, so I'll make sure that that's.
So Brian, is there anything in the comments that you have questions or you can ask the coverage?
I went, so the literacy portion of I wonder if that was the time, but I think if we look at the presentation, literally data has been used kind of consistently this year. So mid-year, we didn't have data this year, we're still in through year of the literacy initiative, but now that you've seen the presentation. And it may have been timing, I think I submitted it in May. And just literally.
Well, I think timing is certainly, yeah, certainly part of that.
So just
the data being the first.
So I think there has been data used in the literacy.
I think that, but if you look at the wording of that, it sort of sounds like what we're doing with establishing a system way of measuring what our literacy program is, how it's doing. And so like the goal for this year was to establish what those benchmarks are going to be. So would you say that what we're tonight is that is? Yep. So what would you say? That
I think we'll be presented VA, but I think we'll give a specific. The presentation, we could go to specific tests that we're using. From data, for example, like visuals, the grade 2. The early learning assessments, those are consistent.
Yeah.
Said they. Maybe that's how I was.
Yeah.
Oh, it's. Yeah. So they can determine the next steps, including rights. I think that's what we've done, right? That was stated tonight. Training in August. Reviewing the expectations of the literacy curriculum, like I feel like that was that determine the data point to be used to assess the success of the implementation of the data. And I feel like tonight certainly helped bring a lot of this stuff.
And you know, you perfect did my own.
No. I think that worked for me. It really just the report itself was, I don't know. Okay.
So the question here about on the map, how much portion where it says that side, yeah, the data point determination. Should it, like the due date on what submitted to us was 10/7/2. Just that it was still.
Right, so for math, we haven't got there yet, because we haven't pilot math yet. We're pilot.
But the due date for this was supposed to be October, so that if
you weren't expecting to be able to do that, then why? would you be able to-
I don't. So it wasn't that I wasn't expecting to, it wasn't that I was expecting to have it was here to do that, for that. Yeah, that's.
I think we were at the beginning of the year taking best guesses at what would happen. As the math team started to meet, things evolved. There hasn't been a math curriculum in this district for 2 years. So
Is
we're,
it safe to say it was maybe a bigger undertaking? than we thought?
that's what I'm driving.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to understand, like, we plan a whole, you talked about it, and
That's a big
Is
part
that-
of it, and it has been, and I want to give a chance, but it's been a little bit of a blip. There's got a lot of. things.
Brian,
So one,
the microphone close.
so one of the things that you say was really get the team involved, so it was. One way to do it quickly is for one person to say, here's what we're gonna do, top down, doesn't usually work well. And Mr. Karajan has been really skillful at creating a collaboration of the math and professional development together, but in doing that, they're all working jobs and there's partnerships or whatnot, so it just takes significantly more time, so I like that one.
So maybe next year, because we had the same situation last year to a much bigger extent, maybe you're not in your mid-year.
Yeah.
Alter it. Yeah, right.
Sure.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's totally understandable. And the right way to do it was the way that you did, but
Well, it's similar to what you guys did with the data block, where
Yep.
it didn't work out with the timing, so we'll push it to the fall,
Yes.
and that's fine.
Yes.
To be able to do that.
That makes sense.
got a general question about the way the format was done. Are you,
oh,
sorry, just because, there are a couple of places where it said, needs improvement versus and proficient. So how was that determined? Because I know in one case I have put exceeds and it didn't seem to show up here. Was it
to combine.
was it a combined, like two in one direction, three in another or something?
Right.
So one didn't cut it. It was if it was, okay, all right. But I don't like about this. Anyway, it's what it is.
I mean, I was just like.
No. Okay, so on that, I just highlighted that about the data or comments maybe. Think about and for this, and we can think across to process a little bit. Anything else on that one from Hillary? So are you there?
She's there somewhere.
I see them. She muted. Okay. Yeah. Hey, okay, I was trying to like make sure did you hear anything that we were talking about?
No.
What?
I guess not.
She's having a little trouble hearing us,
I don't know how, it's right here by me, I don't know what else to do.
but everyone's talking so.
I hear like,
Are you frozen? Are you?
I can hear, I'm not frozen right now. I froze for a second.
Everyone's used to using headsets.
Well, I would, no, the last meeting I could hear, like, but I don't know if it's also the weather too, might be,
Could be
they
interfering,
had a couple of blips here.
could be interfering with the
It
internet.
really depends on the person. Like I heard everything Karen was saying. I heard most of what Mike Barth was saying. I hear for Natasha, I hear like I think depending on which direction she's facing. I hear none of Brian and none of Elizabeth, and I hear portions of Maro and Mary.
I will speak louder. So moving, I just highlighted some parts of the comments of under the goal, on page 3, goal, the first goal. I don't know how much you heard, but a lot of it was conversations about the data, the deliverable, the completed date for the math goal or, and realizing that it was a larger undertaking, I think, once they started it, Mary commented that it might be helpful to think about maybe in a big year, when we had the big year, might have been a good time to point that out or bring it up so we can, change the goal or, ongoing or maybe move it to a more reasonable or attainable time frame. Also under the goal 1, instruction and learning that I want to bring up or speak to, or Brian, anything for you that, okay. The goal 2, professional practice. Yeah, looks like that was indicated to be met. And the comments are noted there. I'm gonna just go through to make sure everyone, I touch on everyone regarding the comments, so, Mauro, anything else? Okay, Hillary, anything else under the goal 2 professional practice comments to add or to emphasize or address as a concern?
I think that this goal was met the way it was written and the way it was updated. But I just want to share that for moving forward for next year, I really want concrete goals that impact the kids, because I feel like last year and this year, that goal, I think we've been clear that this is an area that's important to us. But the goal has been basically like learning and assessing. And I really am hoping that next year, some real concrete changes can get made that impact the kids. But that the way the goal was written and was understood for this year, I think it was definitely met.
And I also wanted to point out, I know, Brian, you had mentioned this to me, and thinking about how we have a subcommittee, we have another committee, the school committee. As we think about goals for next year, how do we maybe look for opportunities there to make them more efficient, to have a school committee representation on the committee that you have, so there's not a student meeting, or just, alignment. I don't know how that might work, but I wasn't part of that subcommittee, but I would leave it to that you and Hillary to.
Gather data or ways to use that data. Right, that's the next steps.
We've discussed that at the DEO meeting tonight. We're looking to form a group to go through the data. We're looking to work with UMass Lowell to create a parent survey that gets a sufficient response rate to get parent input. We're also looking at taking all that data and then working on creating focus groups with the students, because although the data indicates some things, it's not in a sufficient level of detail to concretely say we ought to take an action. So we want to go to the next level in terms of having student and parent focus groups. From that, UMass Lowell and able to work with us on coming up with actual strategies to implement in response to all of the above. So I think we are a couple steps down the road where we need to be. I think early next year we're going to take a couple more, and I would hazard a guess that in the second half of next year we will start looking at implementation of things in response to all of the above.
That seems, I mean, I don't bring it, but it seems really late. Second half of next year.
It's not.
It's not, okay. So you don't.
I just like the Ready conference, Diana and I.
Yeah.
That was facilitated by a couple of people, her and Carla Brooks Bear, her work. One of the first things they said to us was a full implementation to get to a sustained level of high quality DEI process, and the district takes 7 to 8 years.
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying is we actually formed this committee in December. We're 6 months in, talking about 18 months, 12 to 18 months actually taking concrete steps. I think if anything, we're projecting ahead of what's been suggested.
And maybe we go over it differently, because I would think that next year would be. I think it is more action steps to start at the middle of next year, because I do know exactly that it does take a lot of time, and if we're starting the middle of next year, I think that it just feels like, the data we have, I'm wondering if the first half of the data we're going to be working on, how the data is it developing. So again, this might be just a goal for FY24, but
I think what we're lacking right now is parent voice, so we want to get parent voice in before we make a step, and also the level of granularity of the student voice. We can see that some things are percolating, but we really want to meet with the students, and in the focus groups as well. Part of why we're so pleased to work with ECP is they've actually done this work before, so we want the data coming out of the focus groups to be around questions that have been very carefully worded. We're trying to avoid too much home cooking, and what I mean by home cooking is anybody in this room could sit down and say, here are the questions we think we should ask in the focus group. That's probably not a great way to approach going into a focus group. So we're trying to be deliberate in the sense of we want the data to come out to be rock solid. And to get to rock solid takes a bit of time. And I'm afraid I'm sounding a bit defensive here, so but I really just
station.
yeah.
And I'm not, I'm definitely not on the DEI subcommittee, so maybe that's where some of my questions.
I just think it would be helpful to the earlier comments to maybe have some sort of merging of the school committee and this committee, because I think you'll see, a better communication stream about how things are progressing. Having said all of that, I would love to get to action steps next year that would actually be occurring sooner than I had initially hoped. But when there are issues, we want the impulse is to fix them. And I think what we're trying to do is take those steps to correct some things and improve some things in a way that is going to be extremely targeted and extremely effective rather than reacting. And so I'm pretty psyched to continue to do the work, and I know that some of our committee members tonight were volunteering to join these committees. We both with a lot of experience in our district and other districts.
So I guess we'll table that conversation. That's FY20.
Wait, can I just say something?
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about this at a later date because it's really important to me and I can't hear very well. But I think that while I understand that this new committee has only been in existence for a few months, like these aren't brand new issues, and this isn't the first time this has been brought up. Like, it's been, so my child's going into 9th grade, and in 1st grade, she was identifying issues with racial discrimination at Green Meadow. And so if, you take a kid that's for 8 years, there's been an ongoing problem that hasn't been addressed, and then we're looking at a 7 to 8 year plan to address it, that's children's entire educational experience. And I get that this new plan with this committee and the Ready Initiative and all this is brand new, but like none of the people involved are brand new and none of these issues are brand new. And so the kids don't really have 7 or 8 years to wait. Like it's not fair. Every year that a kid isn't being treated fairly because of who they are can cause such huge impacts on their life. And the other kids who are watching that, it impacts them. Like, in first grade, when my kid was saying, how come me and the other Black child are being sent to the hall more than everybody else? The white kids in class are seeing that, and then they're internalizing the differences in how the children are being treated. And that just creates this whole trajectory that continues on and on. The thing with the Thanksgiving issue, that's taking these kids and changing their brain and their understanding of the world. And then that just goes down this trajectory that makes it harder and harder to change in the future. So I get that creating this, focus groups and meetings and all this takes time. But in the meantime, the kids are being impacted.
Yes.
So I think you get our urgency to the situation, right? And so I think that as we talk about goals for FY24, I think that will be an opportunity to delve into this a little bit more because it's very important for everyone as it relates to FY23 and the goals. I think the takeaway is we hopefully have data that we start implementing it or coming up with a plan. And I think Hillary, is that when I'm like, at this point, I want to make sure I understand your concern is that we have no more time to spare to just collect data, to start thinking about a plan that we should have to start acting on something now with what we have. Is that
We need to start trying to fix things for these kids that are currently in school right now.
short-term and maybe some long goals? Is how
I think we're trying, I guess the summary statement is, we're trying to thread the needle between doing something with alacrity while doing it well. Because if we do it bad, you can set people back. It can actually be harmful to do things. Yeah, it's complicated if it's not done well. So we are trying to thread the needle of doing it well and doing it with urgency.
Beth, did you have anything else to add?
No, I think that, so I think everything is on. I think we're gonna do okay. So I'm not worried about it. I think that that's a good committee. We have to plan going forward. I think that this year we started with the goal of making a survey ourselves, and I worked with people like Karen Ross, ways to make that data happen, that the survey, and then Chuck stepped in and actually found this for this. And so now we have a better solution through GMS, and that's great. So we do have a way to establish this long-term data that is going to be very valuable. Look at it with it, evaluate it, so that that is the long term. And I do think that we have been able to do these small DEI things where we can check in on the things that are coming up as they come up. And I think that we can use the data and what we know already is going to create the short term. I'm not worried about it. So, like, for example, we did not have a data walk this year, but that is understandable because years in the middle of the year, and I think we have a better way of having data now. Now, one of the things we should connect is that, so then we'll have a data walk that's going to help, that's going to be pulling the community in, and I do think that we're good. I think we have to.
Now, anything on this particular? Said. Right, Brian, else to add? I know we were just talking about, but it sounds like we're good. Okay, right. Goal 3, family enhancement. Looks like that was it. And the comments there, Brian, I don't know if you had an opportunity to just leave anything to take a presentation, all right, or question. You?
That, I don't think that, that the district is trying to, but say that just, I think what the comment I thought is that we just have to make sure that the community knows about it more and that that's, you know, getting better and better.
Barry, anything?
No, I think Brian did a really good job in this area. You know, because they used the teachers, that was phenomenal. Just, you know, so well received by the staff, and it just shows respect for, you know, that we value them, and the communication was much better this year, to all the resources, your regular commentary, you know, sometimes difficult, even sent out and person. Do want to work more on that whole marketing piece that we talked about, that we're just so humble, and we came out at the tri-board meeting that we are, you know, not really doing a very good job with, you know, putting out all of our successes and terrific our school system. This year was great.
I would add to that, I think survey that we could do, that a lot of people need to have the this with. And then I think another thing that will fall into this next year, the engagement is maybe good. Does.
And also, I just wanted to say how wonderful it's been consistency with the scores. So, I know, you know, predate one of the leaders here, and I just remember Baker and the kids there. So, and I think that really established the expectation, and I think now parents are expecting that in a way that, like, I get my message and when I can record for each school. So I really appreciate that. And I also, I did this last year, when we get school committees weekly memo. I do also appreciate that the leadership team, because they can see of the information valuable with the school committee and they're just that okay, this is this and that. So thank you very much. Okay, so now I guess we want to the standards here. All of them were efficient, and assessment was IC was improvement efficient. The overall was efficient as it relates to A1 curriculum. I think some of this kind of just tees off of the goal as well. So do you have any thoughts? I know we just had the presentation tonight, but anything else that we have questions on or to consider? Anybody else have anything?
I think that the thing that I have a hard time answering is how Brian does the evaluation assessment, and that might be something that are just the data about each year. Your evaluation, you don't know how you're doing that.
So, and that's a great question. It's funny.
Yeah.
I am Dr. LeBron.
Yeah.
I can't show the evaluation that I write for, say, again, for the principals, with the first one. But then,
Sure, but you could, we use like, it's just like a legit philosophy, with your standard procedure, like when you.
Okay.
Important, just.
yeah, so we can talk about that. You know,
Yeah.
I
Yes. Good.
Right.
that would be fine. Because I was like, exactly. But that's fine. I can say.
Well, maybe, because I think that's what the superintendent checklist helped me, you know, because I know there's so many different things that you're responsible for. But, you know, that was like, you know, we kind of put a date, like, this is what you've done. That, and I don't know if
We'll
it's,
certainly share that.
yeah, because these are the goals that you found for your leadership team and for you and when you're done.
So I guess it's kind of, and why would you know this? So for like state reporting, those have to be done. So
Yeah.
if they're not, like, if I don't do them,
Yeah.
then they're not in the state reporting. It's so,
Check
So-
things out.
so that's why I guess, and I shouldn't think of them, otherwise they would come back as an error. State checks. Submits, but I can certainly say, oh, the straight evaluation by the state check.
I think there is something on the checklist, but I think it's so vague, it's so high level, it doesn't.
back, but maybe that can look at the, we can even expand on that.
I can certainly think it could that there.
The other one that is hard is C, which is ensures that all principals and administrators facilitate practices that. Facilitate practices that propel personnel to use a variety of formal and informal methods and assessments to measure student learning, growth, understanding. So I'm not sure how to tell if you were doing something. Lead to that, but I don't know.
And I think we next year, like this year, for example, I know we did learning blocks, so we divided up.
Yeah, I know that.
And we went to each fall, so we went to each building, and so we'll continue that next year with a little more rigor. And that ties into that, so that ties into that whole assessment, whether a principal that's important. And we don't know what we're talking about that, like, what did we see? And it's really helpful for a high school person and a middle school laborer to get together and take that walk. Because we all have our, like I was a middle school person, so like follow. So I get a 6, 7, 8, really did go on. But I've learned in high school, I've learned that going likewise and see what you find. To come to the high school, what is 10th grade or 9th grade as opposed to the phonics, to reading and so we do those things, and that's something that again I probably improve. So
Yeah. Yeah, but it's assessment. I mean, it could just be. I mean, maybe taking a broad interpretation is like the fact that we're gathering data about.
Yes.
Like that's a.
I like the word philosophy earlier, like.
That would be the summer assessment. And then maybe there's something. We're getting an idea that there's. That's not easy.
I don't know. Again, it's really thinking to share all the things that we are related to.
Anybody else on that particular assessment? Was it IC? So it's assessment. So
I would say that the thing that kept me up in my, like looking at all the data points, it looked like people keep asking for us to use data more, and I think more started to, but I think that it, like, we just have to think that if I can say what I hope our district will do next year, that's something.
That's one of my points too, is the more data we can get, like tonight was really good, even just to have the mid-year and the beginning and the end, to see how we're doing in that. I have that as one of the notes too for next year.
And then using it well, like what, like for example, like how is it guided? Let's see, how is it guided? How are we using the data to give parents the information? So that we're gathering the data and then
Don't just give tests for like the assessments for the sake of assessment. Give them really fewer but more concrete.
I think it's just the data mindset, and I would say so this year, I know we still have the antithesis teams. So I think next year it would be really interesting to hear how we are going to continue that data mindset with fewer people on data, assessing the data, and so that would be, I think, the goal for sure. How do we continue, with what we've done in a way that within our we're staff to do it, but I did also wanted to kind of think of that to go to Green Meadow, and there's a lot of conversations about using the newest data, and so I get all the feels. I'm very excited to hear that. It's just some further staff meeting and school thing too. Anything else on the standards? 1, standard 2. Operations are those proficient, except it looks like the fiscal systems. There was Excel exemplary or an exemplary. I was.
and thanks for
Yeah, yeoman's job as far as the whole budget scenario.
And thanks, Brian.
And yeah, great also, yeah.
What a year. Thanks for me.
Yeoman's job.
for people says.
A lot of
Yeah, so thanks everybody for that. And looking at the comments related to, so, environment. Yeah, I don't have any additional things to add. I don't know anyone else. More. That's
Just that A or
just A, yeah, just thought,
or all. Right,
yeah, so it's something that's good.
yeah,
Okay. Mary, anything on the environment, human resource management development?
I just want to say.
Oh, Hillary,
Hillary,
anything?
yeah, I just reiterate that it has not been the easiest thing these last couple of years. So good job with hiring so many people that matters.
And I know you and I talked about this, like, there's many articles, other districts, superintendents that are in very serious situations, with their school committees, and I am very thankful that we're not in that piece. So I think that is testament to just the work that you put into just not giving up on us, for us, giving you, kind of reassess the relationship and, clarify certain things that are okay for expectations and just to grow us. And just again, how you're building it to get full safe scheduling and management information systems. This is, I think, for the evaluations.
Well, also I think that, so like, I think I heard it here, and then I also saw how there's and I started to mention it, but there's also some people mentioning that they would like more time with special ed teachers and health teachers in like common planning. I'm not sure if that if that can happen. I know it's scheduled that. But some, like, things like that I'm seeing, and then yeah,
and make it work with.
and then the thing you're vertical.
Yes.
And kind of this way.
To make those.
But it's not like you're doing that.
Yep.
Just another, about the B. So they always say the sign of the great leader is having people not being afraid or encouraging, would say encouraging people around you to continue to grow. Rather than, sometimes leaders feel like, well, if other people are doing a great job, it doesn't make me necessarily look good, but you do a really, really good job of helping the other leaders in the community, in the school system grow. Goes to you again.
Anything else under standard 2? So standard 3. Is indicated as efficient. Engagement. Okay, anyone questions or anything to add, Brian? And also, as well, so.
Yeah.
Okay. And when we do that, that's a good one. Sharing responsibilities. It's pretty straightforward. Communication, and then we talked about a little bit of that before. I think I highlighted one part about strides today to include stakeholders in such groups such as field task force and TPI. I have hesitation about how much that really, I when I say here strides, I'm not sure if I am in agreement with that, because I know the fields task force in particular has been something that has been shoddy, but I know it's been have the bleacher effort has been taken out, so I don't know if I would use that as a best example. But I don't know what else. Hillary, do you have, I see your hand raised? Right?
I think that I appreciate the efforts to create the DEI committee, create the fields task force to include people, but I don't know that it's going to the next step of really taking what the people are saying to heart. I feel like they're being used to sort of help make people feel listened to, but not actually taking the input and going somewhere with it. Like that next step. I think that there's so much great strides have been made with communication in the over the last 2 years. And it's like almost there by bringing these people in and forming their relationship. I just think we need to go like a little step further, that when they provide feedback, to actually take steps based on that feedback. And similarly, I think you're amazing with smoothing over parent concerns and dealing with conflict. A couple times I feel like an extra step needs to be taken to not just smooth over, but see about follow-up action steps when there are concerns. But I love all the progress that's been made over the last 2 years. And I like that these task forces are being created and the time is being spent to try to involve people. It's just a little bit further would be good.
Would there be any objections if we use the bleacher task force as the example instead of the field and the DEI committee for there? Okay. I was thinking the subcommittee, sorry, so guys are so maybe the bleacher one instead of the field.
I think you also say, I think you can tell the truth that want to sound like we're sharing the meeting.
Well, I mean, the truth is that people in the field committee don't have the same perception.
Well, I'm saying I can say that the truth that.
What are you saying, Elizabeth?
I'm saying don't just eliminate it from the story. If you think that it needs work, I think that's an okay thing to say also, you know, instead of just eliminating it from the.
No, I'm not saying eliminate, I'm just the way in this sentence, the strides been made to include stakeholders in such groups. I wouldn't say that would be the example in that context. I think the bleacher subcommittee or the bleacher task force would be a better example, but then I would also add that there's improvement opportunities in
Do you want to reword it?
yeah, so that's why
Well, I think the sentence came from mine, and I was trying to say like creating these is a really great thing, but I do want them to like go a little bit further.
So then maybe people can just play with that wording.
okay, all right, so just
Well, I guess the next question is, what are we making some changes now?
I think that's, if we're in agreement, that would be something that everyone would be amenable to change, to reflect.
Saying that the bleachers task force was a good example.
Use the bleacher task force, but then also add a sentence.
I don't know that the bleachers task force was any different of an example than the other two. Like I've also heard this, I've heard the same feedback about the bleachers task force as the fields task force.
The bleacher task force, I know meets, they met pretty regularly, and I know that they have community stakeholders on there, and what I've heard, it's been the field one that, I mean, when I went to the rec commission meeting, it was the field, purely the field task force that people had most issue with them. Half of those members were on it, so I have more confidence in the.
Yeah, I think the bleacher one took precedence over the.
Yeah, I think it's just a time when there's the the bleacher task force. Carried that, so that's my takeaway, but I don't minimize everyone else's perception.
Being looked at.
I think I'd be comfortable with Natasha.
Okay, all right.
What'd you say, Elizabeth?
I'd be comfortable with Natasha tinkering the wording the way she thinks would work, and then we can look at it again next time and see if we agree.
Okay. Because I don't know, I think what I was trying to say in that sentence is not what Natasha's trying to, I think we're trying to say two separate things. With that sentence.
Or you can see what she did, and then you can add a sentence too.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so okay. And family concerns, I think my only suggestion was to the opening part of the comment, remarkably big things have come up this year. And I just, for me, I don't know, I think it's subjective because it depends on, you know, when I think about the racism of kids in those families, that's probably big for them. I maybe wonder if it's more things have risen to the level of the school committee is. Because we don't know what big things.
Why don't we take it out? Why don't we take it out? Start with writing.
Okay, because I was thinking, they were taking that out.
Just take it out. It sounds better.
Okay, all right.
More accurate.
Is that okay to strike that out?
Yeah, because it's changed to that
Alright.
concerns. Okay.
Great, so just. Okay, Brian, are you okay with that? Okay. Then standard 4. Overall. Efficient.
Yeah, so therefore, I like the one tiny thing there that of course I did not get. Where it says, coach's vision, it says he has been able to create a coach's vision, and I would say that that's actually, I would say that that's where we're on, is to where we have to get to, and that came up again, in one, like parents asked for it, the, what landscape, you asked for it, and like, and we just heard it again tonight that we received. So I think now we're ready, focus over, beautiful one, place to now.
Maybe Brian has.
Or just, I think,
take a step to create.
I might argue that we just take that sentence out and then maybe note to ourselves that we should hope that that's.
I just don't know what striking that sentence out completely. Or Hillary, what are you thinking? Anything for shared vision?
So like, and then that last sentence maybe is like it's a cohesive team with a shared vision. Is ready to.
Prefer not to take it out, but just reword it.
Yeah, think about it.
Okay, yeah. That's
So, tomorrow. Okay. And then anything else under? Or standard 4?
I
think we covered all this. Now we're just going back to the summary on the overall.
So just an overall. Since we're really kind of an opportunity to really look at the, especially. Sent to like tomorrow or something like that between now and next week or something.
So I would say, take everyone, take a copy of this for yourself,
Right.
and then put a comment like of what you like, if there's something you're stuck on that you want to kind of target. And so our next week goes specifically to the areas that people, and then we could between now or we could figure a way to have leaders help think about the best way to get it there to one person. So it could be in a consolidated document. So we have one document.
wait, more.
See, and I'm already like in it, so.
They won't be very, I'm sure they won't be very many, but it might just be, taking a closer look, there just might be a couple of tweaks that we're comfortable with.
No, that's fine.
Hillary, is it okay?
I figured that that's what we would be doing anyway, because I mean, this is just
Right. So
I
Brian,
had all the comments and then I'm like pulling stuff out and trying to figure out, it's hard to mesh 5 people's different ideas and try and make it like, but like from, like it's sounding like it's coming from one group that we all work together on, so it's,
I couldn't hear what Natasha said, so to know when you were saying, is that okay? But my guess is that, little feedback will go to Maro and Maro will edit.
this, for yourself, if you have suggestions for anything, can you hear me?
I heard a couple, I missed the beginning of what you said, but Mary was nodding, so I can go with Mary's nod.
All right, save a copy of the evaluation that has the comment that I'm working off of in the shared drive right now after tonight. And then on your own, if you have suggestions on a particular item, send that tomorrow only.
Okay.
Okay. I'll send a follow-up email about just with more clear instructions. And I know, Brian, you're you have your early morning, so I just wanted to anything that on the comments for your overall, looks like we have proficient, met the instructional learning was significant progress and met. I don't have anything to add. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add with the evaluator comments. Or if you have any questions, Brian?
I think, I just want to say that I think this process really, I think this document and this process help us. I think it's, we can see what we have done and where we're going next. And I hope you feel the same way, but I think it really has been useful to look back and see your strengths, you know, that to be able to write that down. So that's nice. And like I said, I think there are, you know, and it's nice to be able to take, you know, take that into this next year. So I hope you find this satisfying. As you do. Thank you for everything.
I think it doesn't didn't come on here at all, but I've been intricately involved in is your work with the Green Meadow. I mean, that's another whole piece that just doesn't even come up in this. It really should, because it was a huge amount of work, and we, you know, made a lot of progress in that. So,
Mary, can you take that as a takeaway of a better place of maybe just a couple of sentences where that might be, so that.
it wasn't my goal,
No, sure.
it's because it was definitely.
I think there's a, you know, family community
But you don't have
enhancement, there's, I think it should be reflected in there.
I wonder if that should be included as part of as a goal for next year, because I think that is going to be such a huge piece of Brian's responsibilities next year, and so that it can be like documented and memorialized.
I'm sure that there's gonna be more, I mean, because they're going to, it's not gonna just stop.
No, I know, definitely, but if we put it in the goal, then there's like a dedicated place to address it on the evaluation next year, because it is a big part of what he'll be doing next year.
It will be. I think with that, we have some homework, Brian. I think we're you're fine, or do you have any questions or any thoughts? Okay, we'll talk. Tuesday, yeah, Tuesday. So is any, I'll process a little bit of just kind of what we talked about tonight, and are we gonna have a deadline? When, yes. I'll talk to you about that, just figure out what to do.
When would you like it? Like you tell us.
All right, so, well, we can talk about that separate. I know Brian sort of go, so I just. Brian, it's okay. Yeah. Some of stuff, I mean, some of the things, is Wayne still on or not? Yeah. Well,
Same as it.
okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
So, yeah, the only thing I would say, just while she's looking that up, the minutes didn't be here for that, I just was more about the, there's so many protocols, I put that, a copy in the folder before we left off. I think they're ready to go to vote, but I want to do that next week, so if everyone can kind of look at them again, just to kind of. No, we didn't. I think we had it on a table or something, so I don't think we actually voted. It was the March, I think budget stuff got, you know.
Okay. All right.
Could we just vote today on that? Because if everybody's good with that.
Had a chance to look at it since it was edited last, so I'd rather not, because again, I don't Brian, and it wasn't something that was talked about in the like, so yeah, next week is fine. Nothing, I just like to start the new year with that. Yep. So left or if you could get me no later than Monday. Absolutely, sometime during Monday. That'll give me, I should be able to do it. Yeah, 20, so that there's still enough time to get it to everybody. So, only other updates that for spending was just there was something that came up that Mary and I don't know if you're able to speak to that a little bit. There was just a comparison. There's the end of the year report from FY22, and and there's back and forth with Desi. Are you able to share an update on what that variation was?
I can't hear you. If you could repeat.
Are you able to give any updates about the variation in the end of the year report, the per pupil spending that, I think it was whatever that line was under the business office, that FY 21 that growth of 300,000?
Yeah. I spoke to Rob O'Donnell and Desi, and there was what appeared to be a big jump in spending from FY 21 to 22. And what I found out is that FY 22 actually is accurate, and FY 22 in that particular line is underreported in that it's supposed to be reported in two places on the end of year report, on what's called Schedule 1 and also Schedule 19. Historically, this district has reported it on Schedule 19, which is the subsequent year's anticipated budget. No one caught it. All the auditors thought it was fine. It was Rob O'Donnell himself who reached out to me last fall and said, I noticed you had a zero on this line. You know, you reported it the year before. And I went back and did an amendment and corrected it. So on the phone talking to him today, when we were discussing at length what should have been recorded, there should have been some town reported expenses. And by that, I mean, there was no money that changed hands. We get charged 25% of the accountant's office, 25% of the treasurer's office, et cetera, et cetera. So our portion should have been about $460,000 worth of expenses that was recorded on Schedule 1. And so that would raise that FY 21 number from, I believe, hold on here, would raise it from 240,554 to 682,000, putting it in line with what is in that report for FY 22.
Does this affect our funding? And that's what I was wondering. How does this affect our funding in any way?
No, I specifically asked him that question. It does not.
So
No.
it sounds like, okay, but maybe last year this per pupil spending would have been higher, or should have been higher to account for that. That's what it does. It kicks it up to higher per pupil spending for that particular line.
Yeah. But your funding, any funding we get doesn't go off of per pupil spending.
Okay. All right. So we can talk more about that at the budget subcommittee meeting. I think I need to process that a little bit. All right.
Warrants, right?
Yeah. 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 So, warrants tonight. That objection, I will to accept warrants 23, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 71, 72. All right. Accepted. And then we have two sets of minutes. One that is from the tri-board meeting that I basically took from the select board, and that's what FinCom did. They just adopted the minutes that the Greg Wilson had created for the select board. That just updated to add when we opened the meeting and when we meeting. So unless there are,
I just changed, just made an addition that I was at that meeting. I think it was in Lori.
no, Hillary was, no, she was not.
I was, yeah.
Okay, so let's add you. Right, she was not, okay. All right, so we'll add Mary.
And I just had a clarification about the oh no, it's different. Oh, the Green Meadow.
Okay. All right, so I'm Mary, I added you, and sorry about that.
No worries.
We're there. Okay, any other? So without, there were, which is on the other one, the 4-7.
At the beginning,
Oh,
it says that
I put meeting in there.
I am,
It's the meeting that Elizabeth will both have.
right. Thank you.
So,
Usually have that.
I went back and looked at some, so it's a bit of a, so I just,
Maybe just say with edits, because this is the
Yeah.
one that I added, language, it said, that I suggested a community forum on a Saturday where one may be available to attend, but there's no like context about what that was, so I just say community forum for the Green Meadow Building Project, just add context to it. So we just, it's in there, it's more fun. I get it.
so Colin, are those, right, what's up, sorry, so then, I will, without objection, I would that approve the meeting minutes for April 27th, 2023, and May 30th, 2023 with edits. And approved. And then, unless anyone has anything super important to share for subcommittees this evening, pointing out.
I had a request for a future meeting, and I guess at this point it will be September, but I don't remember us actually getting a year-end MEAP presentation about where the high school is with that process. Right? Are we 2 years, within 2 years to address what they were?
Yeah, I think it's coming.
All right, that'd be great, and again, whenever it works.
And then I just wanted to congratulate all graduates again. It was wonderful. Congratulations all graders for coming up, class of 2027. And also just to say Happy Father's Day to coming up to all the dads and uncles, and grandpas, and moms and godfathers out there. So thank you.
If we're saying that thing.
That was my chair. It was my chair now.
I did go to the Green Meadow PTO meeting last night, and they expressed that they wish they had more influence about what's happening with the budget. They didn't feel very informed about that, and they were wondering if there's a way that the school committee can potentially communicate directly with the people, things like do things like. I thought that was.
Okay, so when we think about next year for our liaisons and things like that, that might be one of those
Yes.
takeaways for that. Yeah, that would be the one we could ask for about.
Yeah.
Hillary, do you have anything to add? No, okay. All right, so then I'm the adjourn. All right, Hillary, roll call.
Yes.
Yes, okay, I'll come back to you. Maybe you can hang on. Mike and Mary, yes. Beth,
Yes.
Laura, yes. Natasha, yes. Hillary, you want to adjourn? I think you want to adjourn?
Now I can hear, yeah.
Yes. All right.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.